Good morning, good morning. Hope that you guys are all having an amazing Tuesday. Today is July 15th, 5:22 in the morning. And today we are going to be watching the market react to the CPI data report. As you guys can see, a handful of different stocks are either gapping up or gapping down based off of pre-market sentiment. Looks like most of the market is in the green during the pre-market session due to NVIDIA news overnight. For those that did not hear, NVIDIA's new specific chip is now going to be allowed to be sold in China, which of course was previously assumed that it wasn't going to be available. NVIDIA itself is up 4.4%, up to highs of 171.31. The thing that I'm focused on today is, as of right now, the inflation rate. So BLS.gov/CPI is where the report is going to be released. This will give us a better understanding if inflation is going up or down. So again, CPI, all items rise 0.1% in the month of May. This will update and then track how much inflation either went up or down in the month of June. That is exactly what is going to get reported today. Based off of forecast, they think core CPI is going to go up 0.3% and overall CPI is going to go up 0.3%. So what we should see based off of forecast and expectation is that all items rise 0.3%. If it rises more than what was expected, maybe markets will drop. If it rises less than what markets expected, then maybe markets will rise even further. So it's really that simple. There's not much to it other than that. NASDAQ market, NVIDIA, especially NASDAQ, has a nice little gap up, but it looks like it's beginning to break that ascending support, and we're seeing some slight retracement. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up presenting itself today to see if it reacts in a bullish or bearish way. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're tuning on in for the first time, do not forget, if you have any questions, feel free to share any questions in that live chat. You do have to be subscribed to the YouTube channel to partake in the live chat, but of course, it's free to subscribe. If you like what you saw here today and you want to be able to watch me trade live every day, that's that second link in the description down below if you want the discount link to join LPP for $1 a day. And that, of course, gives you lifetime access to our LPP live trading session. So I just saw Bitcoin, based off of what I have going on here, broke below 17,000. Look at that. 1699. What a beautiful retracement, right? From highs of 123.65. Anything that becomes overbought for no reason will correct itself just as quick as it rallied. And when this thing drops, all the crypto stocks that are influenced by crypto also drop, right? So we saw that nice gap down on Mara, we saw MSTR, a slight retracement, nothing too crazy, and a slight retracement on Hood, and a slight retracement on Coin. Okay. What's up? What's up? Good morning. Good morning. How are we doing today? We have 4 minutes left until the report comes out. So I'm going to pull up the NASDAQ market here. All right. Here we go. I'm here from Turk and Caicos. What's up, Sean? Ricky, so it's $365 a year or a one-time payment? It's a one-time payment, so I just say that it's $1 a day to break it down, but technically it's actually cheaper. We have people that signed up for LPP back in 2018. They paid once, they haven't paid since. But again, it's whenever it is that you feel like you're ready. If you want to be able to watch me trade live, that's exactly what you'll get access to, and the LPP lesson library that's designed for complete beginners. So yeah. So are we doing bullish today? Rafi, I don't know what we're doing, so we'll wait for the market to react. If it's better than what was expected, markets can rally. If it's worse than what is expected, then markets can drop. So no reason to try to predict when we can't predict. It's better, in my opinion, to just wait to react. Can you guys hear me okay? Oh, it's not even on this. Okay. Okay. Yeah, because there's a video that I uploaded yesterday. I had to re-upload it, so it's actually not connected to my Rode mic. It's connected to my just regular microphone on my computer. So I do apologize if the audio is a little bit different. I'll be working on it. I just didn't have enough time to work on it from last night to this morning. It's 5:28 here in Arizona right now. You sound far away, probably because my desktop has some distance, but it's okay. As long as you guys can hear me, that's fine. The main thing that we're paying attention to is how the market reacts. I'm going to first watch for the market's reaction, and then if enough of you guys want me to, I can break down the CPI data report to get a better understanding of why the market either gapped up or gapped down. Is that fair? Okay. All right, we have about 1 minute. We have 1 minute and 10 seconds left until the report comes out. So, who's tuning on in for the first time to watch a CPI data report? Who's never watched the market react to a CPI report? They normally happen every month. They happen anywhere from like the 9th to the 15th of the month. It's normally within the first 2 weeks, normally. Okay, sweet. Well, I'm happy to have you guys tune on in. Thank you guys for choosing us. And I want to remind you, you don't have to trade. It's the pre-market session. You can literally just watch and you can try to get a better understanding of, why the market is moving the way that it's moving. Because the way that it's moving pre-market doesn't mean that that's the way that it has to continue to trade during normal market hours. I think we have an interesting day ahead of us. No impulsive trades, no impulsive decisions. Let's just stick to it. Here we go. 10 seconds left. 10 seconds until CPI report comes out. We got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, market's reacting in a positive way. Nasdaq's pushing up to 560.23. Let's see. Is it a fake out or is it actually going to push? I don't know why it's struggling so much. Let's refresh it here. Remember, it's going to be bls.gov. There we go. We saw a 0.3% increase, 0.3%. So all items came in at 2.7%. And then core inflation came in at 2.9. So technically, based off of this forecast, we actually came in a little bit lower. Technically. Inflation still went up, right? But expectation or forecast was 3%. We came in at 2.9. Expectation or forecast was, 2.6. But overall CPI came in at 2.7. That's actually higher than what was expected. Huh. So core CPI came in lower. Overall CPI came in the same or higher. The funny part is it just all has to do with how it's calculated. The funny part is that it did only increase 0.3%. I'm not convinced that markets are going to push up. What do you guys think? I feel like markets are struggling at these levels. Yep, so it looks like core inflation is lower than what is expected. Overall inflation is higher than what is expected. That's correct. All right, let's see. Looks like markets are still holding here. QQQ, testing around 560. We got BTC also reacting, it looks like, in a positive way. Nice little push up. We'll see if that continues. Everything should have seen some form of slight positive reaction. SoFi testing 2140. And there it goes. First sign of a resistance. Let's see if we begin to retrace. I love that Spy Warrior. Spy Warrior, I've said it once and I'll say it again. However much you could afford of anything, SPY, whatever stock it is that you want to do at these overbought levels, I think talk is cheap. I say upload a video. Show yourself actually buying the stock at these levels right now. And I promise you, I will match you with a short with however much you could afford. Easy. Let's make the most of it. Let's have fun. I don't understand why you get so offended if I share my thoughts or I share my opinion. But you always come back like a good boy. You always come back, right? No reason for the markets to be bullish again, but markets have been irrational. That's why I'm not that surprised. And it's also the pre-market session. So we've seen it also many times, right? It's been 3 to 4 minutes since the report came out. I want to see how it trades for the remainder part of the day, right? What do people make of inflation going up, right? Because that's the whole thing, is that core inflation as of right now is at 2.7%, and based off of overall inflation, we were at 2.4. We have now jumped up to 2.7. Previously, we're at 2.8 for core inflation. Now we're at 2.9. So I think this is just the important part to understand of inflation is going up, but it really didn't jump up as much as probably many expected. So I think that the market will need to take some time and digest this data based off of how they believe the Federal Reserve will react, right? Because it's not what I think, it's not what you think. It's all about how this looks through the eyes of the Federal Reserve. I think that's the important part. All right, here we go. NASDAQ market still holding. Ricky, what are your thoughts on stocks like HIMS today? Why would CPI have any meaningful impact on share price of a BS company like HIMS? Well, HIMS is still a company that trades under a specific index, right? So if we pull up, where's HIMS? There it goes, 1.5%. And again, would I say that HIMS is ultimately its direction is depicted by the way that the market is moving? No, because HIMS isn't really necessarily tech focused, so NASDAQ's movement isn't super important for HIMS, right? The same way that it's not really influenced by S&P 500 as it's not part of the S&P 500. But there's still very large markets that overall sentiment will still change the direction of this given stock, right? I think that's the important thing to take into consideration where, no, I do not believe that an individual stock will always trade based off of what other major indexes are doing. I think that it's just important to understand that they can influence it. And for HIMS, I would say it's a smaller influence than something like NVIDIA and NASDAQ, right? NVIDIA makes up a large part of NASDAQ and the S&P 500. So I think it's important to understand the correlation or the impact and the influence, but also of how much, right? But yeah, good question. I'm looking forward to see this all week. Definitely. Ricky, what are your thoughts on RKT? Is that Rocket? Rocket companies. For me, very low volume right off the bat. It wouldn't be something that I would care to day trade, right? I'll tell you that. Let's look at overall direction. A lot of consolidation based off of recent months. So looking back to late 2024, it's been trading from a range of 1568 and lows of 1085. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. If you are, be my guest. You can trade oversold and overbought levels, but there's no consistency, right? There's not like a super clear direction that this thing is bullish or bearish. It's just a lot of consolidation. So if you're okay with trading something like that, like I said, be my guest. But at least for myself, it's just not the criteria that I'm looking for. But good question. And look at that. NASDAQ market beginning to give back what it gained. I know most of these people are buying PLTR at a 670 PE ratio, and then they tell you that it doesn't matter and try to justify the price with fundamentals. Yeah, but that's the thing, right? For people like you and I, Jason, we pay attention to those fundamentals, and that doesn't mean that we're right. We're right in the sense of the PE ratio is a metric that a lot of investors do pay attention to, but it also, I don't believe, should always dictate what you're okay with trading, right? Because I do have to say that by paying so much attention to PE ratio and so much fundamentals, you also do avoid or sometimes miss out on lucrative opportunities, because PLTR is not just like any average pump and dump. It is a well-run company, it is a growing company, and it does have a lot of hype. So it kind of has almost everything other than super strong, I don't even want to say fundamentals. It's just there's a big disconnect from what the company is worth to what the company is valued at. So I think that there's stocks for every person and their own risk tolerance. I take it as my job to highlight these concerns or areas of risk, but I'm never here to pretend like, hey, this thing has a high PE ratio, you should all avoid it. No, right? We're all adults here, most likely. I would say 90% of the people that watch me are all over the age of 18. And I never want to hold someone back. You guys know that I'm not a big crypto guy, but I know that there's money to be made in every market. I think as long as someone makes you aware of not just the upside, but also of the downside risk, if you're aware of both sides and you still make the informed decision to get in, then whatever follows after is something that you accepted, right? And I think that's a great way to look at it. So I do agree with you that, with that high of a PE ratio, when I pull up PLTR, right? It is shocking for a lot of people, but then other people often say, right? Because I see a handful of the different comments of like a 620 PE ratio is nothing. There's other stocks that have over 1,000, and that also is true. But why are you comparing a company that's worth, what is it, 300 billion? What's PLTR worth? To other companies that are in the hundreds of millions, right? And those companies are known most as pump and dumps. So here it goes. Market cap 350 billion. So I think it's just something to keep in mind. There's a lot of people that are invested in PLTR at very low levels that also acknowledge that it is incredibly overbought and overvalued. So they won't buy at these levels, but they also don't plan to sell, right? They want to see how long it can sustain this type of either valuation or trajectory. And I think, who are we to say that they shouldn't, right? It's their own money, it's their own risk tolerance, and if it continues, they get to reap the benefit. If it retraces, then they also, it's just a position that they were okay with accepting, right? And I think that's our biggest job, it should be, is that as you continue to network with other traders and investors, your job should never be to convince another person to agree with you. It's just You know, if you think that something is risky, you just explain why you think it's risky. And that's all. You lay it all out for them, and this is why I don't do this, or this is why I'm okay with doing this. And it's not that they have to agree. At the end of the day, you're the one that's going to dictate what it is that you do in this market. And I think that's what's most important. It's just to inform so people are aware. And the more that people are aware, maybe they can make a more informed and calculated decision on their next investment. That's all, right? Ricky, how's an NVIDIA short? I don't know who's shorting NVIDIA, but just like MSTR, I'd be looking forward to shorting NVIDIA. Where is it? Because NVIDIA had a big gap up overnight, right? Yeah. I could entertain a NVIDIA short here. I want to see how much it runs during normal trading hours. We have a rule with our LPP team for this week. We have a focus, but there definitely is a lot of gap down. I have no open position on NVIDIA, just so you can see. Yep, no position on NVIDIA. I actually have it as a long-term investment for myself, my daughter, and my lady. But I have no intention of buying at these levels, but I would consider shorting it if opportunity presented itself, for sure. Does that offend you if I short NVIDIA? Is that wrong of me? You understand we're two different people, right? My money is not your money. I could never get offended by what other people do with their money. Maybe it's just me. All right. We got Tesla back up to 317 or 318. Where's QQQ? Here we go. Nice little retracement. Looks like it's heading right back down. So this was a nice little bull trap for the pre-market session. Tyler, it makes it interesting, right? It's good comedy. But I agree here. If you want to send out something you want me to break down, let me know. Ricky, how do I join your team? You can subscribe to us here just on YouTube if you're just looking to stay connected, and it's free. Or if you want to watch me trade live, it's the second link in the description down below. So whatever you think is more suitable for yourself. Ricky, what do you think about HOOD? I think as long as market conditions for crypto are bullish, I think HOOD and Coinbase have the environment and the condition to continue to remain bullish, right? If we look at this on the larger time frame, I think you can clearly see that there's a very, how I talked about it in today's earlier video, right? I said RKT. The reason I'm not a big fan of RKT is on these larger time frames, you can't really see a clear sense of direction. It's been pushing up, but very slightly, and the profit potential is just as much as the risk potential. A lot of consolidation. When you compare it to something like HOOD, I can see why so many people are attracted to HOOD because of how clear the direction is. I still believe, and it's just my opinion, right? I believe it's overbought, it's overhyped up, and that if crypto begins to fall, then so will HOOD. But that's just what I believe, right? If you think that HOOD is an incredible deal at 101, then buy it, right? To me, the risk to reward, how much you could make versus how much there is to lose, it's just not worth it, right? It's like you're paying such a premium to own the stock right now. Even if you wanted to invest in HOOD, I think that waiting for a retracement, so you just get a better deal, right? In this market full of greed, I think our biggest focus should always be deals, deals, deals. Why overpay when you know a retracement is bound to happen? Doesn't matter what stock it is, every stock eventually ends up pulling back. So again, just doing your part and knowing when to enter. But I like HOOD. I like HOOD in the sense of it's been interesting to see all these different ways they are getting very in tune with crypto. With their launch of their tokens in the EU, some people call it a success, some people called it a failure because these were synthetic shares. And both companies that they sponsored for these tokens of OpenAI and SpaceX, both openly came out. Elon came out and said that shit's all fake. And then OpenAI came out and said, you did not get our approval, and we are not affiliated with any of these tokens. So pretty much saying that they're just made up. They're just made up through Robinhood. In my opinion, it's just another way of a new form of an NFT. And that's always just what I have seen from the crypto space. They're just always looking for lucrative ways and very creative ways to create value out of nothing, right? And I think those tokens, these synthetic shares, which means these fake shares of private companies, is a great example of that. But again, you got to give credit where it's due. They're definitely trying. Stuck in upside down PLTR, short myself. Don't look like it's holding, but I'm convinced that it has to correct. One quote that, again, is very famous in this market, especially during current conditions, is that the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. I don't think you should ever convince yourself, at least I don't think it's a healthy habit, that no, the stock has to pull back. I agree. The stock eventually will pull back. But by then, how exhausted are you going to be as a trader or as an investor? Just keep it simple for yourself. If you're so certain that it's going to pull back, challenge yourself. This is a conversation we have with our LPP team all the time, right? Stay patient, wait for confirmation, for criteria to be met that there's actually a break-up pattern. So for Hood, it would be pretty simple. We retrace below EMA and moving average, and we see a break-up pattern. That it's no longer an ascending uptrend pattern, that this thing would begin to trade below, 95 as of right now, 95 or 96. If it begins to do that, and now it begins to actively sell off, at least at that point, we know that, hey, there's a break-up pattern, there's a shift of direction. This might be something that I want to pay attention to short, because it earned it. It's not just an opinion anymore. It's I'm working with the direction and the trend of the stock. Just my 2 cents. If you want to continue to go for it as you are, I'm not here to stop you. I'm just here to make you aware. Before I wrap up, of course, Elite PC. Before I wrap up today's session, did you want me to break down the CPI report? Did you want to see how to read it? For those that are tuning on in for the first time, do you know how to read it, right? So the first step is, where does this report get released? BLS.gov/CPI. That's the official website. Once it updates, you'll see the update here. So CPI, all items rise 0.3% in June. This is the most recent one. So again, all I ask you guys to do is, again, drop a thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Once you're here, you just click on PDF, and then it breaks it down for you. So if you want to learn where overall, where overall CPI is, that's all items. That's 2.7%. We saw a 0.3% increase in the month of June, and all items, our inflation rate now is 2.7%. Before seasonal adjustment. When it comes down to core CPI is all items less food and energy. So it's right here. And this thing rose 0.2% in the month of June. So again, that means that all items are at 2.7, and that means that core CPI, all items less food and energy, are 2.9. We could see here that based off of the last 12 months, month of June 2024, we remove that, we add the new month of June of 2025, 0.3%. So it's one of the biggest jumps, and that's what I'm interested to pay attention to. I want to see, based off of how it was before, usually news outlets focus on that of like, hey, we just had one of our biggest jumps in inflation since January of 2025. Because technically that is true, right? We saw a 0.3% increase from May to June on our inflation rate, which is not the average. It's one of the biggest jumps based off of recent, inflation rates. And then this is just a dot chart where it shows you what the core CPI is, 2.9. Saw a nice little increase, and it looks like since April, our overall CPI has been increasing, right? From 2.3, we are now at 2.7. So again, it's just a visual representation of our current inflation rate for overall CPI and for core CPI. And then this is where it gets fun. These are the items that are tracked and how they come up with the inflation rate. So these items normally never change. They have food sector, the energy sector, and then they have like a series of commodities, and then they have specific services. And then what they track is, you just look at this line right here, because this is May, this is April, we're just tracking June. So all they're asking, don't get confused with all these data points. All it's asking is, hey, in the month of June, from May to June, did food at home go up or down? And it's like, oh, it went up. Okay. It went up by how much? 0.3, right? Food away from home went up 0.4. Energy went up 0.9. Energy commodities, 1% increase. So it looks like energy sector was one of the biggest contributors. You could see that energy had 1% increase, 1% increase, 1.3% increase. But are we really surprised by that with everything that was happening in the Middle East? No, if anything, we expect it to go up even more, right? Electricity, a 1% increase. We have utility, piped gas services. This saw a 0.5% increase. All items less food and energy, a 0.2% increase. So we have two items that saw a decrease in the month of May, and it looks like those items are new vehicles and used cars and trucks. One saw a 0.3% decrease and the other one saw a 0.7% decrease. And then it goes apparel, 0.4% increase. Medical care commodities, 0.1% increase. Services less food and energy, 0.3% increase. Shelter, 0.2. Transportation, 0.2. Medical care services, 0.6. So if we look at this, what was the biggest increase and decrease? Biggest increase was for the month of June. We could see here a 1.3% increase, and that was in fuel oil, a 1.3% increase. Let me just double check. Yeah, that I'm not cross-eyed here. 1.3% increase. That was the biggest increase in the month of June. And then the biggest decrease, it looks like it was used cars and trucks, which saw a 0.7% decrease, which means that used cars and trucks are still going down. That doesn't really surprise me because you have to think interest rates are pretty high. It's less attractive to buy used vehicles, especially because the loans for used vehicles are even more expensive. So demand is lowering, which means that if demand has to meet current supply if supply has to meet current demand, then that means that they have to bring down the price of those vehicles to make it more attractive to people to buy. So that does make sense to me on why this is dropping, and it's simply because it's less enticing for a consumer to buy a new or used vehicle, but mainly a used vehicle, just because it's more expensive to take out funds, right? Like if I want to buy a 2022 Toyota Camry, I can go find one, but again, I'm not going to have a lot of competition in the sense of if markets and interest rates were really low, then there'd be more competition because money is cheaper to borrow and therefore people are borrowing more money. When money is more expensive, then again, it's just like we're seeing right now in the real estate market. Ask any of your real estate agents that are friends, right? Is now a good time to be selling a house? Probably not, right? It's more of a buyer's market and less of a seller's market. It's just that I think it's useful. I don't think it's super important. I think it's useful to understand the type of market it is based off of current sentiment and understanding of it. So, market's hopium. That's what we've been running off of. But anytime I say anything like that, we get people like Spy that get offended. Any form of uncertainty, though. Oh no, markets are going up forever, right? So we'll pretend like they are. Like everything is running just fine. All right. I like that. Okay. And look at that. We're right around that 6 a.m. mark. We're at 5:57. So that gives me 30 minutes before our LPP live trading session. So again, in about 30 minutes, right when the market opens, that is when I'll be hosting our LPP live session. So you definitely do not have to But if you're watching this and you want to tune on in for those live sessions, you like the way that I break things down, we'd love to have you. It's the second link in the description down below. You can even just check it, click on it to check it out. It breaks down LPP for less than $1 a day. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access, and whenever it is that you feel like you are ready, we're here for you. So you don't have to sign up, but if you're someone that learns best by watching other people do, then visually you'll be able to watch me trade live every day. This isn't for you to copy. This is for you to understand my thought process behind every trade I take and to also get connected with other LPP traders. You get the LPP live session, the LPP lesson library that's designed for beginners, and the LPP Discord. So again, second link in the description down below. Whenever it is that you're ready, we'll be there at Market Open. So if you do end up signing up right now and you want to tune on into our live session, please sign into LPP once you're all signed up and watch the welcome section. That will explain to you exactly how to get access to the Discord and how to get access to the LPP live session. That is, of course, included in that. So I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, feel free to either comment down below or don't forget to message me on Instagram, which is also linked in the description. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.